Hello, everyone. Welcome back. And if you weren't here, welcome to the European Educational Leadership Week. And today we are celebrating the International Digital Learning Day. And we have here with us a very interesting presentation on human-based AI. So I'm just going to give the word now to Istvan from the Hungarian Rectors Conference to introduce our speaker for the day.
Hello, everybody. Good morning to all of you. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to welcome everyone on behalf of the Hungarian Rectors Conference and also representing one of its member institutions, the University of Pécs, where I am working as the international director. And we are so proud to be contributing to ELNE, and also it's such a great thing to have the European Education Leadership Week and the webinar series. And it is of utmost happiness for me to welcome my good colleague, Dr. Ferenc Arato, with a PhD, who has research quite substantial and also teaching activities in the areas of cooperative learning, social inclusion, nonviolent communication, and related fields at the Institute of Education Sciences, Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences at the University of Pécs in Hungary. Ferenc also serves as the coordinator of the Network of International Cooperative Learning Educators and Enthusiasts, the NICLE, alongside Neil Davidson, Yael Sharan, and Laurel Stevan. And additionally, he's been quite active in journal editing as well, because he holds the position of editor-in-chief of the Autonomy and Responsibility Journal of Educational Sciences, as well as an associate editor position at the Intercultural Education Journal. So a highly intrigued and qualified colleague of ours who will be addressing a very, very important topic today. Please welcome Ferenc Arato. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, István, for this fantastic introduction. So you put the level very high. I want to reach that level because that was a so nice picture of me. I hope you will enjoy this webinar. Thanks a lot, István. Okay, so let's welcome everybody. I feel honored. We have a short period of time, so I want to kick off this webinar as soon as possible. I will ask our colleagues to share the presentation slides. And as soon as you can see it, we can start. All right, so the title of my webinar is The Importance and Ways of Human-Based Knowledge Construction for All in the Era of AI-Assisted Learning. And I will kick off the webinar by exploring what this new era in AI signifies for us, marked by the introduction of the latest generation of large language models like ChatGPT. If you listen to the next slide, you can see that the main question, is it a new era of AI? Is it a new era of something what we have never experienced before? I remember in 2019, it was in an early evening. I couldn't hardly wait to sit down at my laptop because I had finally subscribed to my first serious software that was AI supported in the background. It was a simple management application. And my God, I was about to experience how an AI personalized my usage. It was very interesting for me. It was a superb development. I could effortlessly capture my project ideas, assign responsibilities, add tasks, and so on. There was just only one thing I couldn't stand. After defining the task, I always had to reach for the mouse to click on a small X in the top right corner instead of moving on the next task. After 7, 8 hours of collaborative work, suddenly, when I went to move the mouse to the X, it magnified by 10 times, and I simply couldn't miss it. I jumped out of my chair and my hair on my back stood up. Oh my God, it's amazing. It says that I hated that little X. I immediately sat back down. After 80 minutes later, 80 minutes later, not only did it magnify, but it also brought the giant X closer so I wouldn't have to move the mouse as much. And finally, it developed the closing function to a right click. I stood up from my desk, went out to the terrace, looked at the down sky, and I said, we are all saved. In 36 minutes, the machine learned my first language and corrected my Hungarian according to the
Sorry,
project.
Ferenc,
Yeah,
we
yes.
cannot hear you right now.
Oh, and now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, now it's working. Now it's working. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can
Hello?
hear you now.
Oh,
But
thank you.
maybe because your connection is poor, maybe later you can turn off your camera to make the connection better, maybe.
Okay. Please give me a sign whenever I need to turn off the camera. Okay. Can you see me
Okay.
at all? If not,
Yes, now
I
we can
don't.
see you.
Okay. So in 36 hours, the machine learned my first language and corrected my Hungarian according to the project language, trying to improve my language even though it wasn't in the offer. Show me an educator who can do this in such a short time, ensuring personal access for all children at the same level. The next day, everyone thought that I was crazy. At the Institute of Educational Sciences at my workplace, I kept repeating, we are saved, we are saved, we are saved. What was previously unthinkable that every child would have completely personalized learning environment now seemed achievable. ChatGPT wasn't around back then. ChatGPT is the next level of this, as human language is the foundation of communication from prompting. It means that barriers have completely fallen before the exponentially higher level of learning for everyone. Humanity has a lot to catch up on in knowledge quickly to rethink the framework and significance of coexistence in this new era, starting with schools, possibly immediately. In the next slide, I summarized what I have learned from this experience. The first thing that we are facing a huge opportunity for the humankind from the aspect of education. The first thing, we have exponentially improved access to human knowledge. The second, we have exponentially higher level of personalization in the learning process. In the next slide, I will ask you a question from you. Certainly, not everyone viewed this matter optimistically. The arrival of ChatGPT caught the developers themselves off guard, leaving them utterly amazed. Before I really start my webinar, I'm interested to hear your perspective on this. So what is your impression about this new AI era? Please give me 3 words. It could be feelings, ideas, thoughts, anything. Okay, I will ask my colleagues to apply this Slido. So as you
It
see,
should be on the
yes,
screen.
yes, we are seeing it. So please enter any word that comes up in your mind, any impression, feelings, thoughts, ideas. I'm very interested in your opinion. Yeah, somebody's raised her. Yeah, okay, yes, we are seeing it. Very nice. Fantastic. Magic and fear, underestimated, uncertain, faith, creativity, uncertainty. Thank you for helping me understand what are your impressions. Exciting, helpful, scary. Yes, we have ambiguous impressions about this whole new opportunity. Exciting, creative, magic, promising, fast-paced. I like it. Illustrating, revolutionary, crazy. Yes, of course, it's crazy. Empowered. Yes, we can feel ourselves empowered. Okay. What's in it for humanity? Okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. We have our word cloud, and as I see, we have some magic words in the middle: creativity, exciting, curiosity, magic, and the fear is the largest one. Thanks a lot. Okay. If you want to, you can support. Okay, we finished. No. Okay, thank you. Okay, yes, of course, it is a very exciting moment in, I guess, in the moment of human history, and I want to briefly overview what this webinar is about. So this webinar consists of 3 different parts. Let's briefly review these. In the first part, I will present the challenges faced by traditional concepts and forms of education in the AI era, particularly from the perspective of human learning and knowledge construction, highlighting that another wave of the industrial technical revolution will inevitably force a reconsideration of the social function of schools. New opportunities may open for every learner that were previously inaccessible. So this is the first part. The second part, in the second part of the presentation, I will explore the achievements of the constructivism and cooperative educational discourse in the context of learning and social interaction. I will connect this with the proposed next stage in education based on AI-driven learning. The third part of the webinar will focus on leadership approaches in school communities, discussing the community of learners, the community of practice, and the cooperative learning paradigm as the 3 pillars. These 3 approaches can help education leaders collaboratively rethink the role of schools in social space and operation, involving not only colleagues, students, parents, and school partners, but also the local, regional, national, and international environment of the school. I open the topic from the perspective of the new era of AI. Is it a threat or a gift? That's the main question, as we saw it in the word cloud. We are witnessing the dawn of a fantastic development. Hundreds of applications, plugins are being worked collaboratively by developers, professionals, and educators. This is truly a new beginning of a new era. It's incredibly exciting. However, I would like to talk about the challenges and fears as well, as fear was the biggest word in our cloud. Okay, one of the biggest misconceptions our generation has about itself is that we considered digital immigrants. But in reality, we are more like digital culture heroes. The foundation of computer education was built on our feedback. We had been using and teaching technology long before specific subjects or courses were established about the IT world. Even today, in conversation with developers and on various social forums, we collectively shape the direction to take in this AI craze. I've conducted a survey at the university with more than 250 teachers and teacher training students regarding their fears about AI. I have prepared an informational booklet on overcoming the 7 most common fears. Because although we cannot predict what future brings and how all of this will unfold, it's still worth overcoming our fears and utilizing revolutionary tools to enable our students to achieve higher performance. However, we need to confront certain challenges in the field of education. I would like to highlight one of the most frequently raised challenges. Since applications like ChatGPT already operate based on human language and are capable of producing excellent language outputs, it makes it difficult to trace the authorship. Currently, there is no solution that can definitely determine whether a text was generated by ChatGPT or written by a human. This means that authorship is becoming more fluid and transforming in this era. And this is already impacting issues such as cheating in schools or universities. One immediately emerging challenge is the verification of the authorship of school assignments. If students of any age can produce text of any quality, any level, untraceably, it forces educational institutions to reconsider their methods in assessing and judging knowledge. This can bring several fortune changes. The senseless digital paper production in schools, the unnecessary text creation finally ceases. Most students have already been using the internet to complete their assignments, so there was little point in creating them anyway. And now it's even simpler. The authorship of home assignments has always been unverifiable. That era is now coming to an end. Methods of assessment based on presence, such as oral exams or real-life projects accompanied by practical portfolios, are gaining value again. If AI helps each student progress individually in subjects like math, biology, literacy, and so on, schools can finally focus on what is more important: how students apply the individually acquired knowledge at a higher level, how they can collaboratively solve problems related to future challenges, and so on. The significance of knowledge construction based on social interactions among humans also increases. In schools, there could be an emphasis on cooperation-based social and emotional learning, teaching them what these machines will never be able to teach: how to live constructively with their peers. I made these infographics for one of my projects about the evolution of the AI culture in education. But this is not a prediction, but rather one of the most suggested paths based on scientific findings. Currently, most are in the first stage, fundamentally in a teacher-centric approach. They are creating materials for their students, sometimes spending even more time in front of the monitor than before. This stage will soon come to an end because it will replace by the next phase the real use of AI for personalized learning. In this stage, teachers can best support their students with formative learning and assessment. I have also created a digital handbook with videos, examples, explanations, and prompts on how university students can develop their cognitive and learning skills and learn more effectively with ChatGPT. In this stage, teachers can really save a lot of energy and time with ChatGPT, and they can use their freed up time for their students' essential learning and regained enjoyment of teaching. My previous argument in favor of assessment forms based on presence or even social interaction already hints at the third level of AI-based learning, where individual learning paths are woven together in cooperative, interactive learning processes. The fourth stage will be the one I will talk about at the end of my presentation. All of this suggests that it is worth learning what educational sciences have understood about learning, cognitive development, and knowledge construction. This is also the key to the current technological revolution. Schools should change their understanding of knowledge, learning, and assessment. So in the part 2, I will speak about the constructivist approach of knowledge construction. So one of the most important trends in education science from this perspective is the constructivist or cognitivist educational approach, which provides a paradigmatic shift in understanding cognitive development and learning. One of the key insights is that each individual constructs individual knowledge in their minds, and this uniqueness remains. Another realization is that every human knowledge construction emerges through interactions with the environment and peers. I remember 30 years ago, I used the Socratic method in one of my very first primary school classes. I just posing questions related to philosophy of language, starting from the basics. How do we know what the word table means? After the first 10 minutes, the entire class was standing, debating with me. I had to assign serial numbers to the participants. Number 1, number 2, number 3. Okay, number 1, it's your turn. Number 2, it's your turn. Those sitting in the back even stood on their chairs to see the debaters and participate in the discussion. All 24 children spoke multiple times. My ears were ringing and the hairs on my back stood up due to the captivating flow of collective thinking. It was amazing. It was an epiphany moment in my life. We continued the debate throughout the break. The other classes' lesson was starting in the room, and it was also the beginning of their next class, so we had to stop. I flew home on cloud 9. I'm a teaching genius. Every child participated in the debate, and the level of the discussion was no lower than when I debated the same questions with my university students. I feverishly wrote more Socratic questions all night. The next day came the cold shower. The kids were bored to death, didn't understand anything. It seemed like a different team altogether. They asked, can we do what we did yesterday? The experience seems unrepeatable. I went home feeling like I had been hit on the head. Not only am I not a teaching genius, but I also don't even know why something worked on one day and not the next. The experience also pushed me toward reading. I found 2 starting points for knowledge construction that involves everyone and develops everyone, which have since become part of my everyday routines: the Kolb experiential cycle model and Bloom's cognitive domains. The most important lessons from constructivism is that learning and knowledge acquisition are inherently dialogical, relying on social interactions. Since the 70s, researchers have been demonstrating that students learn more effectively when learning is treated as a social interaction in educational practice. In other words, they have created models that use linguistic forms, questions, and instructions to stimulate various cognitive behavioral domains, preferably for each student individually, for improving their cognitive and learning skills. You can see some models on the slide. I will briefly introduce 2 books by a researcher, Robin Gillies, who has made significant contribution in recent decades to familiarize people with the constructivist discourse. Through her own research, she has confirmed that constructivist approach of learning interaction based on collaboration are the most effective forms of learning known today. The first book is an edited volume by Robin Gillies, published by Routledge. It provides an excellent overview of constructivist practices with contributors from pioneering, popular, and young authors. The other book is Gillies' independent work, where she demonstrates how cooperative learning practices based on constructivist models can develop the scientific literacy of each student. In a short study in our Educational Science Journal, one which important scientific horizon is dialogue and collaboration, Gillies summarizes the essence of the constructivist approach through vivid examples. Today, we could say that the constructivist people prompt the brain into interaction among learners. If you think about it, this insight has also led to large language models. ChatGPT simply constructs the most probable text based on a large amount of linguistic data, which human users then verify and adjust, that is used constructively. In a sense, ChatGPT also utilizes human social interaction to serve, communicating in human language, even if not consciously. However, the knowledge generated through social interaction is not simply compiling text, but deepening the understanding based on learned connections. What individuals learn with ChatGPT and other AIs, they deepen by sharing with their peers, using it to overcome problems and challenges and deciding on its relevance and validity. Okay, let's see what we have learned in the first two parts. Part number one, there is a new emphasis on traceable learning based on social interaction and cooperation. From this last part, learning and knowledge construction is more effective through social interaction, as it has its as a nature. Dialogical learning is the nature of knowledge construction. In the third part, I will talk about the cooperative paradigm in the future schools. A framework provided by cooperative learning was already present in the first constructivist experiments in the 70s. I encountered cooperative learning in the mid-90s when I was not teaching children, but rather training teachers. I first applied it to a group of 80 participants. Our topic was the academic underachievement of Roma children in schools. The training focused on going through the 8 points in which schools could make changes to ensure the success of the children. I lectured the teachers on this topic, supported by numerous personal experiences. Despite them liking what I talked about, it didn't touch them. Rather, it reinforced certain prejudices against my intentions. When planning the first cooperative session, I was also afraid of what would happen if 80 potentially biased teachers spoke up. The training on the next day became one of the greatest experiences of my life. Okay, I ran around a bit too much between the 20 groups, but it worked. People debated, planned together, searched for answers, and convinced each other about the 8 points. At the end of the training, 2 microgroups came up to me. At first, they hesitated to express their thoughts, but eventually blurted out, "Sorry, but we think you gave the session the wrong title." "Why?" I asked, surprised. "Instead of the academic underachievement of Roma children, you should have titled it the underachievement of schools in the case of Roma children." Bang. I couldn't have hoped for better feedback. I became a devoted advocate of cooperative learning for life. So the discourse of cooperative learning through thousands of studies has proven that transforming the structures of learning and ensuring equal participation for everyone in personal learning interactions, such as providing individual tasks for each learner that positively build on each other, everyone is capable of achieving higher level of learning outcomes, regardless of background, compared to individual or competitive learning. Moreover, their emotional and social competencies are more developed and their mental balance is higher. I would like to bring attention to two recent books, one edited by Neil Davidson, who along with his colleagues over the past 50 years has provided research on mathematics learning that supports everything I just mentioned about cooperative learning. The volume he edited compiles the 5 decades of experience from pioneers like Aronson, Slavin, the Johnson brothers, and up to Spencer Kagan. The other book, also edited by Davidson along with Robin Gillies and Barbara Millis, serves as a continuation of the previous volume, featuring pioneers, popular and emerging authors in the discourse. In this one, I write about how the cooperative paradigm can be effectively and successfully applied in online and even emergency education. Our previously mentioned journal issue aims to provide an overview of the cooperative discourse, featuring pioneers like Gillies and Davidson, along with other emerging authors. In this issue, I present the 7 most common cooperative knowledge construction procedures that we can integrate with AI use starting tomorrow. Interactive, interdependent, synoptic, synergic, interreferring, multi-contextual, and action-based knowledge constructions. Okay, let's see what we have learned in the 3 parts so far. So we need new emphasis on traceable learning based on social interactions and cooperation. Learning and knowledge construction is more effective through social interactions. And cooperatively structured learning interaction and process boost achievement and improve EQ for all. It means that we need to focus from these 3 pillars, what the AI work tells us, what we learn from constructivism, what we learn from cooperative learning. And I want to show you 3 different approaches. So I propose 3 approaches for those working in school leadership and those contemplating the future of education. The first is to perceive the school as a learning community. We extended the school's learning community beyond students to include teachers, parents, partnering institutions, neighbors, and members of the local community. In this model, all participants view each other as learners. Faced with the challenges of the future, we can all only be learners. So it is worthwhile to make this approach the foundation of the schools of the future, enabling us to learn together for our common future. The core of community practice learning is practice itself. People learn, research, and experiment together to make their practice more effective. This is not a new idea. Kurt Lewin, a foundational figure in the discourse of cooperative learning, envisioned action research in this way, focusing on practice, serving as a driving force behind real-life project-based learning, for example. When I was involved in establishing the Gandhi High School for almost dropout kids from the different Roma communities, we saw ourselves as a learning community, learning from the children, families, and partners. We learned their languages, stories, music, social situations, individual stories, as well as pedagogical techniques and approaches from each other. All of this was done to make our practice with the children more effective. Within 3 months, thanks to these communal frameworks, my students, most of whom had rarely seen an open book in 6th grade, came together as a reading and writing community. They created a literary magazine featuring their own poems, short stories, and analysis. The third pillar of my suggestion is the cooperative paradigm from the aspect of the education system or on the level of the institution. At that time, I wasn't yet familiar with the cooperative paradigm. However, in the past 3 decades, I have been invited 3 times to be a strategic developer for education system level models, all of which were constructed in line with cooperative principles. Typical Eastern European story, each model achieved success, but political changes mostly brought an end to each one. The last model on which we worked for 4 years didn't survive the testing phase and ended up in the drawer. One of the most exciting results came from the second model 20 years ago. Here we examined the commitments of schools in 4 regions to become more inclusive through a voluntary institutional development program. In the experimentally cooperative region, 100% of the institutions became committed developers, with some institutions becoming the national driving force for the development. In the other regions developed with traditional structures, 50% of the institutions dropped out of the development after the first year. The success of the cooperative model, although it didn't fully materialize, led to another order for creation of system-level models. So these are the 3 pillars in my suggestion for leaders and policymakers. So with the combined use of the 3 models processing through the stages of AI utilization, the 4th phase is when our children learn to collaborate constructively, allowing a more constructive society to harness the advantages offered by artificial intelligence. So this is the Q&A part of my webinar presentation. If you are here, you can use the chats if you have questions or any opinions. Thank you for the presentation from my colleagues. Okay, if I understood well the question, so the cooperative structures, I'm sure that you know the one of the classic and the paradigmatic exemplar for cooperative learning is the jigsaw structure, not the classic jigsaw classroom model, because that was very in the early stage, but the cooperative, this was created from it. They call it Jigsaw 2. I don't know why, but that's a simple mosaic jigsaw where you, it's simply 3 steps. You divided the learning materials as many parts, as many members. You have a micro group. Of course, you have micro groups in your classroom. So each person will be in duty in one part of the lesson. They make their individual efforts to learn the material, then they sit together with people with the same material from other groups, creating an expert group. So they are deepening their understanding, they can test their understanding, and then they have a well-established knowledge about their topic. Then they are going back to their original group mates, and they teach each other. The goal is to reach the same level of understanding, but they brought with themselves from expert groups. So this is a classical model, and maybe it's not about the structures, maybe it's more about the principles, because you can invent any structures. What is important to follow the principles like parallel interactions or positive interdependence or personal responsibility and individual accountability. You can read them in the discourse. The other question was about the Yes, yes, that's very true. Yes, I see a lot of you understand, and of course you know this, so it's nothing new what I'm telling you. The perspective is what is new, what we should do with AI. Should we do materials with it, spending more time in front of the monitor, or we can use it what is for, like helping our students use it for personal learning. But okay, they will have their knowledge, but this knowledge used for. So maybe that's the next level. That's the third level I'm talking about, that we need to rethink the education environment, because will have fantastic tools for personal improvement, but they will have no tools for social emotional learning and solving with real life problems, even in a classroom among the kids, or real life academic problems, anything. So I think that's the next level. We need to understand, and this is a tool best used if you are following your personal learning, not the materials created by the teacher, but maybe the processes designed by the teacher in a cooperative way. So I think all of us still learning this whole new culture. And these stages that I mentioned are the stages which came from the science. What we saw that would be the best way to use it, and the best direction how to reshape our schools into learning communities, community of practice based on cooperative structures. So we don't know the solutions. I don't know the solutions. Nobody knows the solutions, but we can create a cooperative learning community beginning in schools. So that's my vision for this new era of AI. Valentina, do you see any questions I didn't mention or didn't
I
answer?
think that Axel asked, why do you think that teachers have initial prejudices against these kinds of training programs and AI/technology in general?
Yeah, yes, I'm participating in Facebook groups, of course, from the beginning, and one became a very large. We were a couple of thousands people in the beginning, and now it's over 500,000, and almost 50% of the posts are about the fears. So that was my impression about the teachers, about cheating, about untraceable assignments, and these kind of things. Okay, and what will be our role in the future? So that was the reason why I've created this how to overcome the 7 most common fears, because of course I was optimistic, as you could see from my stories, but I realized that half of the people are mostly fear. So that was the reason why I mentioned that. And I know that there are so many enthusiastic people like me who like this new culture. So just like who asked this. Thank you.
Well, I actually have a question myself.
Yes, please.
So I found it really interesting when you said that some teachers were, for example, for these reasons that you just said, were going back, for example, to oral exams or other more traditional ways of grading and assessing. And I was wondering, from your personal opinion in general, would you say that we are going to see much more of AI in education, or that eventually it's going to die out and we're going to go back to more traditional ways?
No. My example was about that. Okay, you cannot trace the materials which are written at home. Okay, because you cannot trace the ChatGPT. So it means that if you want to assess someone's knowledge, you have to be present with him or her, right? To make make yourself convinced that he is knowing what he's doing, or she's knowing what she's speaking about. So no, I wouldn't say that it will get out from the school, but I think it should find a place, and the place is the personal use of ChatGPT, and of course the teacher can use for their designs and anything. But in schools we should focus on communities, not on AI, because you can use the AI from your smartphone. Why we should use So schools are the last places where all the society can meet each other, because they have to be there, because it's compulsory education, right? So maybe we can start recreate the community, rethink the education together with the kids, together with the parents, together with the neighborhood and other communities, because nobody knows the answers. But education sciences can tell you how you can manage this all. That's the reason why I'm here at the Leadership Week, because we have the models for this, so we have to just organize this way, and we need to put our heads together. Okay, and in this kind of learning, like cooperative learning, I don't need home assignments, because I'm monitoring the learning process in process. So I exactly know on which level which students are. So they cannot cheat me, because I exactly know where they are. Okay. So there's the
Thank
reason
you.
why I told you that not just oral exams, but different methods like cooperative learning, where you do not have to home assignments for yourself. They have home assignments for themselves to making them more improved. But for me, I don't need that, because I know exactly where they are. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I think we have a question from the audience. Radka, if you want to speak now, you can enable your mic.
Thank you. I'm sorry I cannot switch on my camera, but I'm very grateful for what you just presented, Ferenc.
Happy to
And
hear
it's,
that.
yeah, it's so much, so close to my vision of how schools should operate in modern times. And
Yeah.
AI it won't die out, definitely. We all know that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But as a presenter recently, as a friend recently told me, we multiply AI to natural intelligence, and the result of the multiplication is the important result. Because when we know how to use AI so that it can save us the energy, so that we can come back and contact, communicate, interact with our students,
Yes.
that's the way to reconstruct society in schools.
Absolutely
So,
agree with
thank
this.
you.
Okay.
Thank you. I noted.
Let's keep in chat, in touch, and
Yes, I will
you can
write to
find me.
you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
That's just fantastic. Thanks. Okay.
Are there any more questions from the audience? You can raise your hand if you have any questions. And if not, maybe, yes, Radka, go ahead.
I was
green.
just trying to lower my
green.
head.
It was green, I guess.
Sorry. Yeah.
Green.
Okay, yes, Glenn, wait, I will, yes, go ahead.
Hi, Arato. I
Hi.
really enjoyed what you presented.
Thanks.
What I wanted just to say that two things. AI is a great opportunity,
Yeah.
but it must be recognized that it does not, since all human knowledge has
Yes.
not yet been digitized, it is not possible to say, here we have the answers.
Yes. Yes.
The language, I love the language translatability. It's superb. And it saves so much time and will help international communication.
Absolutely. Agreed.
And hopefully increase cooperation and collaboration.
Yes.
What I would just want to ask is, I know you've done some research with your students, teacher trainers, and other academics. However, have you asked students how they can use AI, how they feel it would be best to use AI, and how they feel it would be best to assess their knowledge? Because we operate from I'll call it parentalistic rather than it making it gender-oriented approach. And the final thing I just wanted to say is we've recently heard about AI, that it is both misogynistic and has the potential to be able to influence voters. And in this year, with many votes all over the world, is this something we also need to bring to the attention of our students?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
And ourselves as
Yes,
academics?
yes. That's why I'm speaking about the second phase, when you have your students to use the tool for personal improvement in a critical way. So that will be your or a role in the next phase, when they start to use a lot of different AI in a couple of years for studying. So we should teach them how to be more critical, and anyway, they can improve these skills through the tasks generated by AI. And the other vision of mine, but there was no time for this in the presentation, that I'm sure that there will be a time for nest AIs. For example, a school will create an AI which will be fed with the precise and correct information, and it can contain, of course, safely the information about the improvement of the kids. It can find out more accurate tasks for personalized learning, and it is safe because it's a local server. So I think that's the future of how we work together with AIs in a more closer and personal and safe connection. So, and what AI cannot teach because it's not innate, is the emotional social learning. So you need humans for that. So you cannot learn that from books or from AI, from anyone, because there is another person and there is you, and you could have interest conflicts, you could have value conflicts, you have to do something for living together on this planet. So that's, I think, the main message from the education standpoint, that we need the other humans for being more clever and to find out how to survive, or already fine word. So that's my vision. That's my vision. Thank you. Thank you.
AI will thrive. Thank you.
Thanks.
Do we have anyone else? Otherwise, I think, Farron, you wanted to share. Oh, yes, we have someone else. Wait, I will just give.
Anastasia. Yes, please.
Go ahead, Anastasia.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
So,
Hi.
just to apologize for my voice, I'm a little bit sick, so I hope that you can hear me well.
Yeah.
I have one question actually, because I'm an IT teacher at school, and from 3rd to 7th grade. I noticed that in education, when you use AI, because we have at 7th grade, those 13, 14 years old children that want to teach from the AI, from ChatGPT. They don't want to write down their homework.
Of course.
And I noticed that when they do that, of course, they don't learn anything because they just write the answers down.
Yes.
Isn't it better for the education if the AI doesn't have anything in common with it? Just if it doesn't go in the education, it's just only for work, but not in education. Because if we think if we think more carefully, more in details, everything that it was made, even the AI, it was not made thanks to the AI. It was made because people in the 19s, 80s, they were reading books, they were doing everything with their hands, right? So developing from those years till today, we made the AI, and I think that people are getting, thanks to the AI, they're getting more lazy and don't learn anything and getting more stupid. So
yes, but if you think it's true, what is happening in schools without AI? A lot of superficial learning, right? And kids already putting together their materials from the Wikipedia, so they are doing what ChatGPT is doing already. So it means that we have to change focus. We need those kind of activities in which you can monitor and observe how they use their knowledge. That couldn't be cheated. Do you understand? So they could use
Yeah,
AI, but the importance, the focus shouldn't be on that what they produced, but the focus should be on what they know, and how they can perform this knowledge in social interactions, in real life problems, together with their peers. You understand? So the
yeah,
assessment, we should change the assessment. So homework is not about assessment. Homework is something different. It's much more effective if you make them practice than giving them homework. If you make them practice on your contact hours, the science says that it's much more useful than giving them homework for home. So this should change because the knowledge is so. So we constructing knowledge. They can use AI. They already use internet for the same purpose, finding different material just to copy and paste for homework. So nothing has changed, but they have a much better tool for that. So we need to change in our school. We need to change that. What is happening in my class, I'm the responsible for it. I need to change. I need to understand that I need to be able to assess the real knowledge, not the production of knowledge, production of ChatGPT, but the way how they behave together, how they think together, how they try to solve problems together. That's the way how you can detect the real level of understanding or not.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I
What do you
think
think?
that I know that everything is growing. We need to improve with the time because we can't stop the time going on. The ITs,
Yes,
everything
yes,
that is
yes,
going.
yes, of
So
course.
everything new is sometimes good, sometimes bad. And I think that we as a teachers, we need to know which one of the children is cheating with the chat GPT and
Yes,
which one is just
yes,
improving with it. So yeah,
yes, 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 yes.
but
You
hopefully
have to,
we need
yes.
to grow with them.
Yes, you have to teach them how to grow with it because all
Yeah,
kids wants to grow. And the reason why they are cheating, they are not convinced that they will improve if they are doing the homework, which is most case right. So the
yeah,
homework what they have to do is not worthless. I mean, it's worthless. So that's the reason why we have to change our perspective, we have to change our practice, we have to understand how knowledge really works, how learning really works, because memorizing things and only operating with operations without understanding why we know this is worthless and superficial. And most in the schools this is happening with learning.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot for your question and impressions. Thank you.
So we have one last question for you from VJ. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Go ahead, you can speak now. VJ, do you have a question? Okay, I see that he's not responding at this moment. So maybe Glenn, do you have something else to say? Otherwise, we can make our final remarks.
No.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I have.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Just a quick question in relation to what we're talking about assessment.
Yeah.
What you were suggesting earlier, I think,
Mhm.
if I've understood correctly, is that we need to have some sort of oral presentation to assess individual students' knowledge.
That was only an example that will come up. That they will reinvent the oral exams, but not for me, because I don't believe in oral exams. That yes, but that will be the
So how do we
reaction.
test personal knowledge?
Yeah.
So how do we test personal knowledge in the university sector, in your teacher trainees, for example? How do you assess that they can present the text-based AI?
Yes, I understand. Yes, I understand.
So
I'm teaching them how to use AI because I'm teaching teacher training. So I'm teaching them how to unleash their creativity with AI. Because one of the most the biggest obstacle was that they couldn't imagine how they could apply what I have taught them in their subject, biology or math or anything. And when I told them how to use ChatGPT, they have a lot of examples and ideas from ChatGPT, and then their creativity unleashed, and they had the 16th version of a good example. So that was a real breakthrough, because I'm working with teachers since decades, and 80% of the teachers cannot simply couldn't imagine how to apply to his specific topic. And now with ChatGPT they can. I created a mini workshop, so in 60 minutes anyone can start in their classroom boost the achievement through cognitive development skills. But the other side of your question is very important, that we need to understand that assessment of achievement only one dimension an assessment. The formative assessment is about how to learn. That's what I told in the second phase, that you should have your students to learn, and this is also an assessment. Okay, how you try to understand this test? I read it 3 times. Okay, but that's not understanding, that's just reading. So you can have them informative. And the third dimension of assessment is assessment as learning, the metacognitive assessment, when they can understand why we should do this, why we should learn this, where I can use this, in which context. And the fourth dimension is the hidden curricula. The way how you organize learning is based on your presentation, and they are a silent crowd, or you are structuring a cooperative structure, and everybody feels that, okay, I am important, my opinion is important, I always have feedback on my knowledge, like in cooperative structures. Because with the hidden curricula, you already assess the kids. If you are the presenter, they are a listener, you are teaching them that learning is being silent, which is not true, right? In the cooperative settings, you assess them as individual autonomous learner who can help each other in learning. So this is the fourth dimension of assessment. So assessment is a complex phenomenon. And yes, of course, you can use ChatGPT in parts of this whole phenomena for assessment as well. So some of the teachers are doing the rubrics with ChatGPT, which is absolutely feasible and very easy, because I don't like making tables in the Word or Excel as well. So, but that's only a part of this whole assessment horizon. So I can.
Which needs another lecture.
Yeah, of course. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for everyone who participated. And if we have run out of time, so Ferenc, if you want to say any final words.
Yes, it was fantastic that you have all were here. You were here, and I like the feedbacks and the questions, and I like that so many people are interested in this topic and excited, and also has some doubts and fears, because this is a complex phenomenon that we are living now, and it's a very fantastic and interesting word. That's it.
Thank you very much. So I just want to remind everyone that we have another webinar starting in 10 minutes. Thank you very much, Ferenc, for being here with us. It was truly very interesting, and we will see you in 10 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.